Robert Wistrich, one of the famous scholars of anti-Semitism, makes this comment that after the Soviet campaign, the distinction between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism had collapsed. And I'm sorry Natan's not here. He could remind us that the Soviets were and are anti-Semitic. Right? So where do we see this in the academy? How does this play out? It plays out largely in the humanities and social sciences, less so in mathematics departments and physics departments, as I was just speaking with my friend about earlier. And you have numerous academic associations making statements condemning Israel, entertaining pro-BDS resolutions, bringing it to the floor. But why should BDS, for example, even come to the floor of the African Literature Association?
Part of the illusion, I think, of some young people is that the Holocaust was like a hiccup. Things were great, and then the Holocaust, right? When there's a terrorist attack in Jerusalem, our grandparents would not be surprised that the Jew was a victim, but they would be surprised like hell that there was a Jewish police force, a Jewish hospital, all of these things because for them, and whatever your position is on like issues about what Israel Independence Day represents, if my grandparents knew my grandkids are going to Jewish schools in Jerusalem, they would have said Messiah came, right? I just make that point to say things were really, really bad throughout Western history, right? So it's not just a hiccup. And what made people of my generation, I think, feel very, very complacent is that we believed America was a place that would have a special relationship to the Jews. And they did. My parents, they rode that wave. Jewish success in America. Extraordinary thing. But it's not like that anymore, right? It's different now. And we see students being harassed on campus. Furthermore, the presence of Students for Justice in Palestine group on campus in Israel Apartheid Week events at a university dramatically increased the number of anti-Semitic bias reports submitted. Big surprise, right? If you suddenly call Israel the worst thing you could call a nation state, right? Apartheid, right? It's all there's going to be like a Muslim welcoming for Jewish people, right?
The AUP has provided what amounts to a protected space for academic anti-Semitites to disseminate their hatred. That's not a problem for higher education alone, since the academy is a source for anti-Semitism throughout the culture, a source that is far more powerful internationally than anything else academics can do. Your publications and your teaching don't reach an audience of thousands or hundreds of thousands. We also do not have to tolerate an anti-Semitic climate on campus. Because of the assistance it offered in evaluating and categorizing statements and actions, IRA helped people to recognize that a series of incidents on a campus might represent a pattern of anti-Semitic behavior and pervasive bias, rather than merely a series of isolated incidents. Until then, assaults on individuals that crossed the line between anti-Zionist debate and anti-Jewish assault were often denied any status as signs of broader anti-Semitic bias. On a few campuses, at least, there was growing recognition that a pattern of anti-Semitic aggression represented not simply collateral effects of anti-Zionism, but rather corruptions of fundamental community standards in the West.
The Jewish people, in a way, and I think those of us dealing with anti-Semitism needs to draw on definitions and understandings who Jewish people are, who we are as a people, not a Semitic race, not a non-white race, and not a white race, and all these identities that are being, shoved down our throats, but to come up and to have informed conversations and discussions about notions of Jewish identity that is deep within our culture. And this draws upon, I mentioned, Black consciousness in South Africa. those who struggle to be free need to be in touch, deeply in touch with who they are as a people, what their concepts are of who they are, of what is the other, notions of justice, right? There's all sorts of ideas that are profoundly important that we need to understand.